Sunday sees the famous or infamous, depending on who you support, We Hate Liverpool derby as Everton take on Manchester United. Everton, a bit of a bogey team for Man United. This is a fascinating one in the fact that Man United will be asked to break down a very difficult, in fact, the best defence in the Premier League at this moment in time. Hugh, we're going to come to you first as the Man United fan. How are you feeling a good few days after that Man City game? Do you just put that to one side because Man City are very good? And how do you see the sort of project progressing under Ten Hag?
This is a very difficult game, very tricky fixture for Manchester United off the back of that big defeat, because the first thing you want to do is get the good feeling back. So you need to bounce back with a victory. And even though Everton have had a good start, if they don't beat them, it will be perceived as points dropped, I think, from the Manchester United fans. But Everton are playing really well. Going to Goodison Park Sunday evening is not going to be easy. It's just not going to be easy. It's a very tricky fixture. I do think Man United are going to get hit with that wave. And actually what we're going to learn, aside from the football side, is what's their personality and character of this Manchester United squad. Because I think the atmosphere at Goodison Park, what helped them in the run-in so well at the end of last season, is also with them at the start of this. And if Everton go 1-0 up, I can see those Manchester United players being in the headlights a little bit, being a little bit worried, because they will immediately, it'll be back into that feeling of negative headlines. Yeah. Oh my, what if we lose to Everton the week after we've lost to Manchester City? So Man United need to start the game well. They need to dominate and control this football match. I think Everton have enough, and they have had enough in recent years, in fact always, really, to put a bit of a spanner in the works against Manchester United. I think that could happen. It
feels like it's one of those games, if you're a Man United fan, you'd go, oh, Everton. And then you think about it a little bit, oh, no, Everton.
Yeah.
Because in terms of the strengths of Man United on the good run prior to that Man City game, it was counter-attacking football, wasn't it? There was some space in front of you. And even the game, I remember watching the Southampton game, they sort of got over the line a little bit, but it wasn't fantastic. And in this Everton side, Frank Lampard, and you've obviously watched him in a big way when it comes to him as a manager in his early years. How do you feel about him and what he's building at Everton here?
You've got to give him credit. He was the right at the back end of his Chelsea reign. It seemed like the knife to come out for Frank Lampard, who's a really pragmatic manager in terms of the way he sets out his teams, which is surprising because of the type of player that he was. But like I say, they've got the stingiest defence in the Premier League this season. Only conceded 7 goals. And Everton do look solid. They're not the most entertaining team in the world. Obviously, they brought in Tarkowski, they brought in Conor Cody. Those are 2 Premier League stalwarts that are definitely going to show up any defence of a team that's trying to stay in the Premier League. Let's be clear, those are the goals of Everton this season, to stay in the Premier League. Their financial difficulties have been well documented. I feel like this game is in the hands of Manchester United, though. It's a mentality thing. And I think Man United are in a dangerous place where Arsenal were maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where the pendulum swings so dramatically. You go on a 4-game run, and no Man United fans are going to admit it, but if you would have beaten Man City, there are delusions of grandeur. They would not admit it, but Man United fans, some of them would believe that they are going to win the league.
No.
But as soon as they lose, the sky is falling. They need to steady the ship and just get through this game based on mentality. They've got better players than Everton. They have. I know that it's not been an easy fixture for them over the last few years, but they've got better players than Everton. It's just based on mentality. It's based on Ten Hag making big decisions as well. Does Casemiro come in instead of McTominay? Does Ronaldo start? He needs to make those decisions and be decisive in it, and Manchester United need to be decisive in their performance to ensure that they get a result, because they are good enough to beat Everton.
I don't agree. I don't feel that way at all, actually. I think the Manchester City game, I kind of felt City would beat Manchester United comfortably. I think, actually, even though it was slightly embarrassing, the message from that game was there is a gulf between Manchester United and the biggest and best clubs in football right now. I mean best rather than biggest. I don't want those arguments in the comments, right? Manchester City are playing a lot better than Manchester United right now. So I think they got a bit of a lesson there. But in a way, they can turn it into a positive, get back to basics and understand to one of the top teams. And what they need to do is, it's a game to game, it's a week to week. It's us putting our best foot forward, work rate, number one, intensity, aggression, the things that turned around that poor come back. If those 4 games, those 4 victories had anyone thinking that Manchester United was suddenly a much better team, no, they aren't. The reality is they got a couple of hidings at the start of the season. They had some stern words. the honest opinion would have been, we just need to do better as a group of individuals. They fell beneath that against Manchester City. They need to get back to that aggression, that tenacity that saw them scrape through in the victories, the 1-0 victories that you mentioned.
I'm really concerned about Man United in this game. I've got to be honest, because let's just talk about those two selection headaches, which is bizarre, isn't it, when you talk about Ronaldo and Casemiro. Do you bring them in for these games? Because I think the thing that, if you go and look at Everton's average positions, it's in particular the back line and then the midfield, Idrissa Gueye sitting in front of him. The structure is really there, and that comes from, I think, the soft skills of Cody and Tarkowski of going, okay, just stay with me, let's create this sort of base here, and then we've got Iwobi who's reborn and offers that work rate. Anthony Gordon's going to offer that work rate. Maupay is always going to offer that work rate, even if he's not going to maybe show the quality that you need to score the goals. And then you're staying in games, and then it gets into fine margins, and they do have some physicality in terms of those two centre-backs, and also Onana, who I love. I think he's a really, really exciting player. So when it comes to a game where you've got a team that knows who they are defensively against a team that doesn't really isn't very competent at this moment in time in breaking down the opposition, and they work hard in midfield, do you bring in Casemiro and do you bring in Ronaldo? Ronaldo, it does scream out for Ronaldo, in my opinion. I've got to be honest, because it's going to be a team that's willing to sort of soak up some pressure. Casemiro, on the other hand, is this... I was amazed he didn't play in the Man City game, because why even buying the dude if you're not going to play him in huge games like this where you need a leader who's going to be composed on the ball and has defensive, reading of the game? But you've not done it for that one. When are you going to do it? When is Casemiro going to start playing games? And should it be this one?
I mean, I probably would start him in this game as long as he's fit. I think it's okay to call for a big name, a big signing, a player with experience to come in, but you got to trust that the manager, from what he's seeing in training, is making the right decision. And I just worry about the way that Rafa Varane started comes into my mind, just not being at the speed and intensity required when he first arrived, whether Casemiro is suffering with something similar at the moment. If he's up to speed, if he can play at Premier League game speed, which you would hope
Casemiro's £50 million guy. Shouldn't he be playing this game?
You would hope that he can. Then I would start him in this game. The reason is not really to do with Everton. It's to do with what I saw Christian Eriksen do against Manchester City. Just not a natural role when he got back into the penalty area, when he had to really think about, who am I passing on? Who is my player? Should I go to the edge of the box? Should I follow the run into the 6-yard box? You sort of saw that he hasn't been playing there in his whole career. It's nothing against him. You need someone that's just a little bit more comfortable in that area, and that for me is Casemiro. Yeah,
I've got a real feeling about Everton in this one. I really, really do. I think it's going to be difficult for them. I can see them maybe scoring on a set piece, and I don't. That's why I think Casemiro plays as well, because although you've got the problem of Onana and then the work rate that he will provide, I still think it'll be a team that will go, okay, you can have the ball for a little bit. And I think Casemiro is still someone that will provide the defensive side of it. And ultimately, he bought a dude for 50 million, put him in the team. Yeah. Why Anthony has gone straight in? I find that really odd. Regardless of that, though, I think Everton might sneak this one.
I don't understand how Everton can hurt Manchester United. Their attacking impetus.
Why not?
It will come based on the talents of their attacking players. It's not based on how Lampard sets them up going forward. He's a great defensive manager, but it's predicated on Maupay finding a little bit of space. It's predicated on Anthony Gordon do a bit of magic. Manchester United have got better players than Everton. If Man United lose this game against Everton, then alarm bells need to start ringing. If Casemiro doesn't start this game against Everton, then alarm bells start ringing, because McTominay showed you enough in the game against Man City that he shouldn't be starting for Manchester United. You brought in Casemiro for how much money? How many Champions Leagues has he won? He needs to be starting these games. And so if Manchester United don't win this game, I can't envisage a world where they don't win it. I'll be very, very, very surprised. And like I say, alarm bells will need to start ringing.
Okay,
Casemiro does need to kind of run it defensively from a Manchester United perspective. He's in that part of the position where he needs to get his teammates around him. If Everton are playing on the counter-attack, you need that level of communication and understanding with your teammates. I hope by now they've built that. He's vastly experienced, of course. But if he's not, if he hasn't built that and the manager's not seeing that come out on the training field, like I said, then he can't really start him, because if you think about the physical battle that might come in midfield, the fact that Everton might just play on the counter and try and flood bodies forward, you need that understanding between those in the defensive line and Casemiro, who'll be playing as a holding midfielder. So look, if I was going to make a prediction, I'd have to say it's going to be another one of those stodgy Man United 1-0 wins.
Okay, in a sentence, I think he won't play Ronaldo, and I think they'll lose 2-1. What do you think?
I think 3-1 Manchester United.
Okay, happy with that.
Yeah, you can agree with that one. Okay.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.